Church, I'm Kelly Steele Carlson, and I work with our Mission and Community Impact team, and we are diving into Psalm 95. This is a historical hymn. It is a prophetic psalm because it talks about the previous generation. It is summoning the singers to remember what the previous generation did in their rebellion, their hardened hearts, and it calls them forth to faithfully heed God's voice. And so we see it broken up into two parts. The first 7 verses are praising God, knowing the privilege of worshiping Him for all of He's done. It's our full bodies. Verse 6 talks about kneeling down. And that is the beautiful thing. And we can worship with our whole bodies, all that we do. And then it is a warning, the next few verses. I'm going to read 7 through 11. It says, "Today, if only you would hear His voice, do not harden your hearts as you did in Meribah, as you did that day in Massah in the wilderness, where your ancestors tested me. They tried me, though they had seen what I did. For 40 years I was angry with that generation. I said, they are a people whose hearts go astray, and they have not known my ways. So I declared on oath in my anger, they shall never enter my rest." They shall never enter my rest. What does that look like? For them, it was entering into the promised land. That generation did not get to enter the promised land because their hardened hearts, because of their unbelief. As we know, the Old Testament is a visual representation of our spiritual walk. And as we harden our hearts, we will not be able to enter the rest that He has for us at the end of our lives as we enter into full eternity with Him. But that's also the rest here and now. Because we have access through Jesus, we have ability to rest in God's presence here and now. And I wonder what you're doing to enter into that rest. Is life super busy? Is life overwhelming? Does it feel like you don't have time or we don't make time? I know this psalm is talking to the Jews, reminding them, believe, have faith. Do not walk away from faith because the ordinary is easy. Because walking in faith is hard and it takes intentionality. Are there times where you feel like you keep going through the same cycles over and over and you're like, I need to work harder. I need to do more, to be more faithful, to be more believing in God, to have more faith, to be better? It's actually the opposite with God. He says, rest in my presence. One of my favorite quotes I've read recently, it says, slowing down our pace to create space for God to transform us by His grace. We don't need to work harder. We actually need to slow down to be able to enter that rest so He can transform us in His grace. And you may be asking, how do I do that? Or maybe you know. But for me, I've noticed that it's so easy to get so busy, even if it's good work, even though it's godly work, even though it's so important. Nothing's more important than resting with God. I want to give a trivia question. What is the longest commandment in Exodus 20? Some of you may know. It's actually the 4th one, which talks about the Sabbath. This is a radical way of living, especially back then, but also now. The beautiful thing was God drew them out of slavery, which was defined by work, and said, rest. I am giving you rest. I want you to rest because I'm not making you a human doer, but a human being. I know you've all heard that. But the radical thing is God didn't say the 10 Commandments are done away with. It's actually a way that people are defined by Christianity as how we live and love according to the 10 Commandments. And the Sabbath is still one of those. I know there's arguments if you should take a Sabbath or not, but I do believe resting in God is one of the biggest things that will transform our lives. It's Hebrews 3 and 4 talks about this. It says that in 3:19, so we see that they were unable to enter rest because of their unbelief. To take a Sabbath takes faith. It takes belief that knowing no matter what I do, God will still love me if I do nothing today. He will still bless me if I do nothing today. As I rest in his presence and be present to others, he will be with me, and he will do everything I need. I don't need to work 7 days. And it goes on in Hebrews 4, it talks about how God worked 6 days. He rested the seventh, and that's where we begin working. From rest, not for rest. It's actually the place where we start our work is in resting in God. It's not a reward. It's a gift that he's given us, and we need to accept it and believe that he will meet all of our needs in that Sabbath. So I pray that, I know we just got off a weekend, but I pray that you would intentionally make time for God today, this week. Take a Sabbath. Believe God. It is hard when we're so prone to busyness and productivity and the idolatry of our own achievements. Rest in God, rest in his presence, rest knowing that you don't need to work to be better, but sit in his presence, sit in his grace to be transformed by it. So I pray that's an encouragement to you today, church. Much love.